Welcome to another episode of Locked In Golden State Warriors podcast. I'm Brandon Franio. Joined by me is my co-host Jory Medeiros, and our special guest tonight is Bashar from 49 Minded, Chris Polo, and the one and only Super Dave. How we doing, fellas?
We're doing
We're
well.
doing
I
a
would
lot
say we're
better
doing
than Golden
great.
State.
Yeah, right.
We're all right.
Oh my
All right.
Okay, I guess.
So
God.
let's go ahead and jump right into it. And the NBA Finals started tonight. Game one, the Warriors end up losing 120 to 108 to the Celtics. A heartbreaker for sure. Fourth quarter collapse. What do you think went wrong with the Warriors in the fourth quarter? Let's just start off the bat. Chris, let's hear from you first.
Listen, when a team's hitting shots, like there were a lot of shots that the Celtics were hitting that were actually contested, so I can't get on the Warriors too much there. My biggest concern from that fourth quarter was that offense looked so lost. I mean, like on offense, because listen, even with all those shots going in, if the Warriors had a 30-point quarter, they win the game. And we're sitting here talking about, holy shit, like look at the game that Steph Curry just put together, and they overcame that fourth quarter, and we're up 1-0 going into game two. And they scored 32 points in the first quarter. They scored 38 in the third quarter. So it's not too big of a stretch to expect like some sort of 30-point quarter from them. But 16 in the most important quarter of the game, you were up double digits entering the quarter, and then you lose by 12. To me, it kind of looked like, and I don't know if you guys saw this, I don't know if they were tired or what, but it just looked like mentally they were not in it anymore. Like mentally looked like everything shifted where Boston hit a few shots, had all this energy. And on offense for the Warriors, it kind of felt like they tried to make it the Steph Curry show. Like they were relying on Steph Curry to kind of get a basket, and he wasn't getting any open looks that entire fourth quarter. And you can't really do that. Like, what are you going to do in the rest of this series if you're in a crunch time like situation, it's close? Because listen, the Celtics, they're big, they're physical, they're really good at defense, they're really athletic. And this is where I was on the space just a second ago talking about how this is where people need to give Kevin Durant his credit for when he was here, because in these situations, they had someone they could go to who could just get to his spots, get any shot he wanted, shoot over people. Steph Curry, as much as I love the guy, he can't do that. If you throw a double team his way or throw guys that are just bigger and physical, he's not going to be able to just pick his spots whenever he wants to. And that's where my thing is, everyone else, that's your time to show up. And it kind of felt like they were moving around less. Jordan Poole all game was just sloppy and didn't look engaged. Klay Thompson at this point, I feel like, is kind of a wild card, honestly, sometimes. And Draymond Green taking 12 shots it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's almost like a turnover when he's taking shots like that. He averaged 5.6 shots a game in the season, and he took 12 tonight. He almost took twice as many shots as Jordan Poole. So I think a lot of it was the offense. The defense actually did a lot of good things to take Jason Tatum out of it and Jaylen Brown out of it for at least 3 quarters. But the offensive collapse, to me, was just kind of inevitable when you saw the way that the guys around Steph Curry were playing. Not necessarily like Andrew Wiggins. I think Andrew Wiggins was okay. But everyone else, other than like Otto Porter, who hit some threes, I didn't really feel like Steph Curry was going to get that support the entire fourth quarter.
Good that you mentioned that.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you're right. Yeah, KD used to bail us out, and he's just that amazing, unstoppable guy when we had him, who could always bail us out of those crappy situations. But go ahead, Brandon.
Dave, you want to add to that?
Well, I'm going to kind of disagree on the defensive side. I saw a lot of guys falling for the pump fakes and then leaving their shooters wide open. That's how Horford had all of those shots there. The defensive intensity in the fourth quarter was just gone. Another thing that they did well early was, we know Steph Curry can be a defensive liability, and it was too much of Jason Tatum versus Steph Curry early. Now, fortunately for us, Tatum missed a lot of shots, but that's not going to happen every game. They need to make adjustments there. Another thing that I saw, usually it helps us, but tonight it hurt us. We pass up twos to get 3-pointers, and they were not falling. I counted at least 6 times where there were open twos going inside, and guys were just passing the ball off. You can't do that against a team that's defensively equipped like Boston, because they can recover quickly. As a result, you had a lot of ill-advised shots at the last second and a lot of turnovers that way. So there's a lot of things they've got to clean up for game 2.
Corey, so the question was, what went wrong in that fourth quarter to have the Warriors basically collapse? And what was your take on it?
Well, I think the bottom line is that you're not going to expect Boston to go 15 or 22 again in the quarter. I think they, as Boston, throughout the game, got a little lackluster in the perimeter defense. And I don't know if it was just frustration just because they ended up with about 11 points in that quarter through about 9.5, 10 minutes. But it just seemed like they got a little lazy. There's no reason for it just because of the amount of players off the bench that Kerr could use or anything like that. I just find this a little confusing because the Warriors, in my opinion, are the superior team on paper. If you're just looking at depth, if you're looking at various things, you have to give credit where credit's due. Boston, even though the Warriors were plus 14 in the third quarter, they were Boston was hanging around, and then at the fourth quarter, it kind of brought you back to 2016 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, where they just couldn't hit a shot. So I don't expect that to happen again. If you would have told me yesterday during the podcast that we would hit 19 threes tonight and lose, I would have said that you were crazy. If you look at the numbers, the rebounding numbers, I think we're dead even. But you look at the second chance points, the offensive rebounds on paper, minus that fourth quarter, the Warriors should have won that game going away. But Boston's one of those real. I hate using the word gritty again, but kind of that gritty team that's just very, very hard to kill, metaphorically speaking, of course. It was just one of those weird quarters that I don't expect to see again. You're up by 12 going into the fourth quarter. You should have been able to have extended that lead to at least 20, 22, 23, and have Udoka essentially wave the white flag and bring in his reserves somewhere around the 6 or 7 minute mark, and we go home with the win. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. Al Horford goes off for 26, couldn't miss in the fourth quarter. You saw Jaylen Brown work his magic there in the fourth quarter. And Jason Tatum, yeah, he had the 12 assists, but you didn't see him. He had a terrible shooting night. So it was just one of those really weird conundrums, if you will, where it was kind of back and forth. You had Steph Curry in the first quarter just go completely mental. Boston comes back. They take a 2-point lead, I think, at halftime. The Warriors come back in the third quarter, typical third quarter Warriors, and then they just came out flat. So I don't know if I have an exact answer to it. They just missed a lot of shots. The turnovers, I think they were at 14 tonight. Just weird. Just kind of a weird game. But give Boston a lot of credit for just staying in there, only down 12 going into the fourth quarter and having their way with us in the fourth.
I just want to say shout out to Alex K in the chat. That's my cousin. We obviously go way back. So, yeah, he's a big Warriors fan, loves the Warriors, and unfortunately, we had suffered our first loss at Chase Center. So, and they're the playoffs.
Yeah, shout out to Sergeant Larry S. Catfish. That's my uncle. He's a Boston fan.
What's up, Larry? He's a Boston fan.
What's up?
He's a Boston fan.
If you guys had told me that Porter was going to outscore Poole, I would have taken action on that.
I wasn't expecting that at all. But he looked phenomenal in tonight's game. I'm not going to lie. Especially from the arc.
Even in the previous series, it felt like I get these flashbacks of the Warriors of old, back when we really, really sucked. Like there's these nights where like guys like Brunson or these other dudes like had these like career nights against us, people that you totally did not expect to just have, just because they see Steph hitting every three or Clay on whatever night. They're like, okay, I can do that too, and they get this confidence against us just to make all these threes. It's the weirdest thing, and hopefully this is the end of it.
So. Speaking of the threes, this is the most threes by both teams that they have scored at the NBA Finals. So I thought that was pretty crazy.
The way the pace was, it was bound to happen there. Everybody
Mhm.
jacking threes tonight. It kind of felt to me that we took our foot off the gas pedal the last 2.5 minutes of the third period. I could just feel it slipping away. And then when we
Yeah.
didn't have our starters in, I know we typically don't keep our starters in at the beginning of the fourth quarter, but to in the finals, just to put a team away, I would have kept them in the first 3 minutes. It's like we took our starters out 2.5 minutes in the fourth quarter and allowed them to get back, and they were just lights out from there.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that in terms of like toward the end of the third. I was kind of thinking, okay, I know they usually don't do this, but they should at least probably start Steph Curry going into the fourth to see if you can just kind of keep things at bay because it really felt like all game. I don't know about you guys. It felt like, and I haven't felt like this really all year. Felt like when Jordan Poole was in the game, I was worried, like, okay, how badly are they going to have to repair this when he comes out of the game again for Steph? Because Jordan Poole, his ball handling to me is really erratic, right? Like he has moves, but it just feels like it's so easy to get a steal against him. It's so easy to like kind of stop him in his tracks. I think he over dribbles sometimes. And also when you're
Mhm.
playing a team that's as good defensively as the Celtics, and if Marcus Smart, who even though it would have gone to Draymond if he was healthy, Marcus
Mhm.
Smart is the defensive player of the year and going one-on-one situations with Jordan Poole, I feel like he kind of puts his head down a little too much
Mhm.
and it kind of stops the flow of the whole offense. And that's what it felt like. It felt like that stretch to transition from the end of the third into the fourth quarter, those Jordan Poole minutes, it felt like every time he was out there, the offense just stunk. That's kind of how it felt.
Even Pritchard picked him. That's saying something.
Yeah. You
Hey,
know,
but if you really quick, if you ask me that, the Warriors outscored the Celtics in the third quarter, what 38-24. I mean, when I'm seeing that stat flash upon the screen in the third quarter, I'm thinking, oh man, we got this.
Yep.
so
I didn't feel that just because of the last 2.5 minutes there.
mhm.
It should have been a 20-point lead to me. The fact that we let it back to 12 was, I
so
could just feel it coming.
so me personally, I feel like also too is the Warriors tend to do this a lot, especially when they get a good lead on their opponent. They tend to like, okay, we don't really have to work as hard anymore. We have this big lead. There's no way, our team, our opposing team's gonna catch up. You can't do that against Boston. Boston,
No.
no way in hell. Especially with the defense that Boston has as well too. And then you see freaking Jaylen Brown start going off, right? And then you see Al Horford coming out of nowhere shooting freaking back to back to back to back threes, right? I mean, like the threes were just coming out of nowhere in that fourth quarter, and that's how they caught up, and they end up pulling the W out. So that's the one thing that they need to not do. They can't
Uh,
let off the gas. You know.
can you pull up that comment because it's pissing me off, but it's making me laugh at the same time.
Yep.
Yep.
For
That's the
our media,
perfect.
we pulled a Kyle Shanahan tonight. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. That's true. And then Steve-O said they should take out Green and put Kurt in to shoot threes. Yo, what was up with Green shooting
That'd have been a good
shooting
idea.
because
couple threes tonight?
I
because he
have
was
no
open,
idea.
everybody else was locked down. If I'm Boston, I let him shoot that all night because the chances of him hitting two, even 3 pointers a game are basically nil. I have a better chance of a winning lottery ticket.
Yeah, and the problem with that is I feel like guys are getting locked up, so he was shooting, but he was shooting too early sometimes. Like sometimes he's putting his head down and go to the basket where like there was a similar play. So it was I think it might have been in the fourth or maybe in the third, I can't remember. But someone kicked the ball out to Andre Iguodala wide open at the top of the key. He didn't shoot it. He waited, let Steph come around, and then the play developed. It ended up being like a Klay Thompson three somehow. Like those are plays where it's like Draymond, dude, don't pull the trigger like that quickly. Just wait. Let something develop. And if things are looking kind of tough, just go ahead and try to get something going. Try to get a dribble handoff going with Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. drive to the basket to try to look for, a kick out or maybe a lob. I know that teams are going to look to get Draymond in a mentality of, oh, let me take this open shot. I understand that, but teams do that all the time. So it shouldn't be something that's new to him. And he took twice as many shots tonight as he does on average, which to me, it's like turnovers. You know what I mean? Like taking a Draymond missed layup that's really contested that you knew he probably had no chance of making is basically a turnover. Or Draymond taking a 3-point shot and it goes off the front rim when there was time left on the shot clock. It feels like a turnover. But another aspect too, and I don't know how healthy he really is, but this really shows how impactful Gary Payton could be on this team if he was healthy.
I was just about to mention him.
Because especially in that fourth quarter when they needed something to happen and defensively, Jaylen Brown was looking like LeBron James on Cleveland for a few minutes there. Yes. He was getting whatever he wanted. He was getting to the basket. He'll get a jump shot out on the perimeter, mid-range. I mean, he was just cooking. He got whatever he wanted. And it felt like they were missing one more defender on the perimeter tonight because Klay Thompson, he tries to hold his own, but these guys are really quick and athletic. And honestly, let's be real. Yes, the Celtics are not going to shoot like that again. But Jason Tatum's not going to play as bad as he did tonight either. Exactly. So we also have to remember that. They don't have to shoot as great a percentage like that if Jason Tatum is playing his game. So that's where I worry for the Warriors in this series. Not like too much, but if you do want to go by the statistics of it, so I was looking it up because I wanted to be sure. So the team that wins game 1 of the NBA Finals wins the series 70.7% of the time. So odds are pretty heavily against them, but then again, I do think that the Warriors are a much better team than the Celtics when they're playing their game. But that's kind of been the issue with the Warriors is sometimes they just don't play to the level that they're capable of, whether it's a problem with turnovers or they're just making stupid decisions. That's going to be the issue is they kind of are their own worst enemy a lot of the times.
It seems like throughout this entire playoff run, they've been playing the opponent's pace. They've been playing it slow,
exactly,
lackadaisical slowness. I said, get out and run. Boston's not going to hit every single shot. Get the rebound, outlet pass, and start running and get these guys tired. You start just walking the ball up, taking 6-7 seconds to get across half court, letting Boston get into their defensive sets. You're just asking for trouble. Now, I agree with Chris. I believe Golden State is the better team, but they played Boston's game tonight and still should have won. It took a miraculous fourth quarter and a shooting drought like I never thought I would see again after Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals to have that happen. We still only lose by 14, by only scoring. What did we score? 15 points in the fourth quarter.
It was 16.
Completely unacceptable, especially because we dropped 38 in the quarter prior. It's just amazing how hot and cold this team can get. We have the defense to stop them. We have to be able to work on the rotations. Now, Boston rotates as much as anyone, 60-some-odd%, but they have to be able to get around screens and be able to at least contest these shots. 21 three-pointers is never going to happen again. It's just not realistic. They have to figure out a way to get into their transitions. And, I mean, the offensive rebounds were endless for us. Second chance, third chance, fourth chance points. But the defensive rebounds coming back, throwing outlet passes and getting out in front, tire this team out, go after them, get the starters into foul trouble. I didn't see any of that tonight. It was all just a three-point barrage. There was 40-something threes hit tonight. 19 by the Warriors. Just under 50%, and they lose. It's unacceptable. As good as Boston is, and Boston is a very good team, we played right into their hands, especially into the fourth quarter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It would have been nice to see Kuminga out there at one point in the fourth quarter just to give the team some energy. I know I hype him up a lot, but I just love the guy's energy, and he loves to attack the basket. I mean, we needed something. Like you said, we kept doing the same thing over and over again, and, of course, Draymond thought he was Chris Mullin tonight. But that's another story.
That might have been a solution on defense, having that one extra guy. I mean, I like him as an all-around player there. The fact that you didn't have GP2 out there tonight, Kuminga could have filled those minutes.
So I would have just straight up just played Wiggins a little more.
Yeah, me too. Was Kevon Looney out there for most of the fourth quarter?
I don't believe so. I think he went small.
If he was a little faster, I think he would be an even bigger aspect. He had that one turnover there, I think, late first half, where it just goes off and he couldn't chase after it before it went across half court. It's like he was a point guard in as like a freshman in college. He needs to pick up the speed a little bit.
You think he'd be a lot faster? He could have had those 2 points on that one play.
I don't know. The second chance points, we owned them. The offensive rebounds were terrific. You can't play into the Celtics game and expect to be able to win handily. You have to be able to play your game, force Boston into uncomfortable situations, and just shoot the lights out and get. I thought the game was officiated well. There wasn't a lot of ticky-tack fouls. There was a few here and there, but they just played right into Boston's game.
There were a few missed fouls on both sides that were obvious and just blow.
But there wasn't a lot of those ticky-tack fouls that you're
Iguodala took the knee to the nuts.
Over from the Eastern Conference Finals, if that's what you're saying.
All playoffs. It's just been 40-something fouls called. It's like, what are you doing? Let the game flow. And for the most part, I thought that was
there was one where they called on, I think it was Draymond, where we already knew it was losing. I'm like, just let them play, man. It was a foul on Al Horford. I mean, just let the motherfuckers play. Like, at the end of the day, dude, Boston was gonna win anyway. So, like, you don't have to call the foul. Just let it go. Like, another question I want to ask you guys: do you think Boston had the advantage because the Warriors had a couple more days of rest than Boston did, because they just came off of Game 7 on Sunday, so they were kind of already still in the groove and everything?
Good question.
No,
personally, I don't think so.
No.
I think that it looked pretty even, I think, to start the game, and the Warriors were showing that they were the better team as the game progressed. But then when the fourth quarter came around, I think this is where I would give Steve Kerr a little flack, because, okay, if you're not going to start Steph Curry in the fourth, okay, I get it. But I think what they should have done, because especially the way Jordan Poole is playing, I think he needs to find a way where Andrew Wiggins can have enough rest where he can start the fourth quarter, because I don't think he did. I think he was on the bench, and it was Andre Iguodala getting those minutes, because that at least could have given them another lockdown defender on Jaylen Brown, and he's the one who just went off in that fourth. So he might need to try to find a way to switch that up a little bit, so that way if Jordan Poole's out there, whether he's playing good or not, or that whole lineup they threw out there, really, you need to have that defender out there. Just so that way, if someone's going off, because Jaylen Brown was getting whatever he wanted, you can have someone to check that, because he played really well defensively tonight. And I think that alone could have tried to stop that run that they really started, really just from Jaylen Brown's 10 points that he got right off the bat.
Yeah, agreed. Do you guys? So Alex actually brings up a good point. So Alex said it might have been a factor. We looked gas in the fourth. Kershaw played way more off the bench, like Bally, Moody, Kamiga, or somebody.
And that never should happen with the amount of time we had off.
Yeah.
Veteran teams need the rest. I mean,
yeah.
Curry's pushing, 32, 33?
Yeah.
Thompson's up there. Draymond's definitely up there. Iguodala, he's one shoe from retirement there. They need all the rest they could get. They should have taken advantage of that. I think you get gas when you have a younger team with that defensive pressure.
Inexperience.
With all those shots.
Experience gets gas. There was just no excuse for that fourth. Curry comes out. Steve-O makes the point here, 21st in the first. I would have Kerr change some type of substitution pattern for Curry, where maybe he starts each quarter, give him the rest there late. He needs to be playing more minutes, especially with every game in between -1 having 2 days off. He needs to start the second. He needs to start the fourth, even if it's for a couple minutes, 2-3 minutes. Have him sit for 3 or 4. He should be playing around 40 minutes in every one of these games. There's no more series after this. You got to win 4 here, and then take some time to rest and lick your wounds. But the problem is that I think Kerr gets a little predictable with the substitution patterns. I think I was listening on the radio driving home. I just don't think GP2 was ready, which is I think why He was dressed and just in case, but I just think there was something going on where he wasn't quite there. Hopefully he'll be there for game 2 because that's a lockdown defender. I think he'll give Marcus Smart all the fits in the world. But to me, there's just no excuse for just not having the energy in the fourth quarter to match Boston, who had just played 2 consecutive 7-game series against Milwaukee and now Miami. It's just
that's true.
I know Boston's an older team too. If you look at the veterans, they have some young talent there with the Williams, and you got White there and whatever. But Marcus Smart's been around. Al Horford 140 playoff games before reaching the finals. That's a stat you really don't want to be a part of, but it's reality. Mm-hmm. The Warriors should have had all the energy in the world, especially with Curry coming out late in the third quarter. He didn't even finish the third quarter. He came out with like a minute left. He should have started the fourth, tried to get a gust. Now, we didn't expect being up 12 to have what had happened, but get in there, try to get it up to 20, and then have them rest until they needed them to come back. I think Curry needs to switch the substitution pattern a little bit with Curry and have him start every quarter just to make sure that Boston doesn't go on a run like they did in the fourth.
Agreed.
And Brandon's moving around the house right now. He's away from his computer, I think. I don't know.
New TV cribs.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was your guys' perception of the return of Iguodala? For the most part, I liked what I saw. There were a couple things here and there that I was kind of a little iffy on, but what did you guys think about his return?
I think that was honestly. So this is going to be kind of weird. So, do you guys get the feeling that sometimes when a guy is questionable for a game, they like to not say that guy's going to play till right before game time to just try to keep the other team on edge?
That happens with every sport, though. It's not even just basketball. Football happens all the time, and everything.
Exactly.
All the time.
So the Gary Payton thing came out, I think, pretty like earlier than they usually would say, and it almost feels like they wanted to give Boston the intention or the perception that Gary Payton was going to play, and instead we're like, no, we're going to throw Iguodala at you. That's what it kind of felt like, and I feel like he maybe got a little too much minutes, just because, like I said, I think Wiggins played 34 minutes tonight. You can give him 38 in a finals game with a couple days off. You're not playing until Sunday. He's your best
Curry. That's the whole point I made with Curry. Curry should be playing 30 minutes every one of these games, especially with 2 days off outside of between games 3 and 4.
And especially
Wednesday and then Friday.
Because starting that fourth, if you're not having Steph Curry out there, you need to have another all-star out there, in my opinion, with Jordan Poole. You can't have Andre Iguodala because, first of all, Andre Iguodala, even though I like him and I like his experience, he's barely played this year. You got to have Andrew Wiggins out there. He's just going to make a bigger impact for you. Let Iguodala get those filler minutes, right? That you just need to buy some guys some rest, but I think you need to give guys an extra 3, maybe 4 minutes per game, especially when it's this close, or you have a chance to just go on one run to put them away. I think that was a missed opportunity there because I saw that he wanted to get Wiggins back into the game at one point, but it was just too late. Like the whole Celtics team had caught their rhythm. Jaylen Brown had already went on a run, and it just put the Celtics right in position to just take the game from them, and the rhythm was gone. Because people were saying, like, okay, well, the Celtics, the way they're shooting right now, it's not sustainable. And I was telling people, well, it doesn't really matter because there's only 5 minutes left. It's not like they have to sustain it for 48 minutes. They just have to survive for 5 minutes. And
exactly. By then,
that's where you got to throw the rhythm off. Yeah.
You definitely need somebody else besides Jordan Poole out there for no other reason to stop his erratic dribbling. I mean, that looked bad. That looked like a guy trying to go around the cones and stumbling each and every time.
Yeah.
Just a very sloppy fourth quarter. I mean, that's just really all there is to it. I don't expect Boston to shoot like that again. Like I said, 15 of 22 will never happen again. The Warriors just need to work on the rotations a little bit more. I think they pretty much played. We were talking about this yesterday in the preview. I think they pretty much played man to man throughout the game of what I had seen, which I think is the way to play a team like Boston. But they were just unconscious. I mean, they shot over 50% from the outside. I just don't expect that to happen going forward. The Warriors just have to be able to play their game. I'm just reiterating things from earlier, but play their game, force the tempo, push. rebounding, and the Warriors were killing them on the rebounds until that fourth quarter. At second chance,
Right.
13 points, and they just kind of took the foot off the gas, I guess, if you will, and let Boston hang around and went on that blitzkrieg in that fourth quarter, and the Warriors were never able to recover, especially with only points with like 3 minutes left. I mean, it's just unacceptable.
My worry.
25. If the Warriors put up 25 points there, they win. They score 25 points in that fourth quarter, they win that game.
Yeah. My worry is that I feel like Steph Curry has to average like 32 points in this series.
But he
for them to
shouldn't,
win.
is the point.
Exactly.
He didn't get enough contributions from Clay. Jordan Poole, I was going to mention this earlier. I just didn't want to interrupt. I think Jordan Poole just played very tentative. I think you're going to see him up this, be a little more aggressive. And a guy like Jordan Poole is perfect to go after a Marcus Smart or go after an Al Horford to get him in foul trouble because he has that quickness. He has that sort of thing where he gets past. You saw that beautiful up and under, that little crossover on Steph Curry had on, I think it was Horford. He had that little flip finger roll there. That was beautiful. Jordan Poole can do that, but he just needs to be more aggressive, try to get to the foul line more, and they just need to be able to close these games out, and that's just sort of the thing. But they'll come out here on Sunday, hopefully take care of business, and then go out to Boston for games 3 and 4, and just hopefully be able to get this back at worst 2-2 for game 5.
Yeah, agreed. My next question is, I want to talk about Steph Curry's little hot start, and then second quarter he didn't get any points whatsoever. What do you think happened there? And then he came back third quarter and looked phenomenal. But you think it was just the defense from Boston was too good in the second quarter, or what?
Well, he definitely didn't get a lot of open looks like he did in that quarter. And coming in, everybody was talking about Boston switching defenses. Whatever combination they had in the second quarter seemed to work because he was definitely ineffective. And then nobody else was really taking shots in that second quarter either. It was like they were watching Steph, waiting for him to just rain another couple of threes. And when that didn't happen, nobody else really stepped up outside of Wiggins in that quarter.
Is there any word on Steph Curry's ankle by any chance? Because I know maybe it might not be serious, but I know there was a point in time in the fourth quarter where Curry kind of jumped down weird on his ankle. I'm not sure if anybody clarified that or not.
I think he's okay. I think he'll be fine. It was a situation where he felt it roll and he knew, I got to be careful right now. But I think he's fine. It didn't look like a very bad roll to me.
And we got flat tired there and lost a shoe there on that one drive, and just
right.
I don't know.
I remember that.
They just need to play a more fundamentally sound fourth quarter, and I think they'll be fine.
Well, that's where throughout the court, because we can look at just the fourth quarter, but that's where to me Draymond taking 12 shots throughout the course of the game cost them opportunities, because it's also going to give the Celtics energy. I don't know, if I'm on the other team and I see Draymond Green take a contested layup that's double teamed, that gives me energy. We just definitely won that possession because we made Draymond Green take a stupid attempt that he had no chance of making. There's no reason Draymond Green should be taking almost twice as many shots as Jordan Poole. There's no way that makes any sense. And I saw he had a comment supposedly in postgame, because someone just sent it to me, where he basically said, we pretty much dominated the game for the first 41, 42 minutes, so we'll be fine. But that's really not a great mentality to have, because that last fourth quarter, you got annihilated really badly. So you guys had that mentality today, and that's essentially what cost you the game, is what that's telling me.
Exactly.
Because you guys thought you were really comfortable in the fourth quarter, and you were not fine. And Jason Tatum is not going to play like that the rest of the series. It's not going to happen.
I guarantee you he won't.
I wouldn't agree with the 41 minutes either. I would say about 35 minutes. They look really solid.
But does Boston shoot for 50% from the floor and 50% from three-point land every game?
No.
I mean,
not
expect a typical
every game,
Jason
but
Tatum
there
game.
are games where they can.
And you don't need to if your best player's in a rhythm. Like tonight, they needed to because Jason Tatum was playing terrible. But if Jason Tatum's playing like himself, you don't need to shoot that kind of percentage.
I really believe that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say because also, like I said, is Steph Curry going to have to average like 34, 35 points in the series because he scored 34 tonight and you lost by double digits? Mm-hmm. So, and like, listen, you got a 20 piece out of Andrew Wiggins, so it's not like it was Steph Curry and nobody else. Clay didn't have like, his best game. So at this point, it's like if Jason Tatum starts playing like himself, I think they have to win both the next two games. I don't think you can go down 2-1 to this team because I don't know if I trust in the fourth quarter that someone's going to step up to help Steph Curry out. Because if you get in these close games, especially if you're on the road in Boston, which is a tough environment, I don't trust this offense to find ways to get open shots with Steph Curry being undersized. They're just going to blitz him and dare Andrew Wiggins. And Klay Thompson, you can dare him to a certain extent just because you're going to try to make him put the ball on the ground. You're going to try to make sure he's not getting opportunities off the catch. I don't know if I trust the rest of these guys right now because of the fourth quarter I just saw. I don't know if I trust them. Not against this Boston defense, at least.
Well, we're all at a loss for words. Usually we're just talking like crazy here.
I definitely don't trust them if all they're going to do is jack up 3-pointers. I mean, there were some opportunities where they could have driven to the hole. And in that instance, a 2 is just as good as a 3-pointer. If for nothing else, momentum-wise, just stopping the bleeding. We couldn't do that tonight.
They need to, if they end up getting back into this half-court set, just more ball movement. They end up they're one of the best teams in the association, just moving the ball, trying to confuse the defense, playing hot potato, find the open shooter and launch. And it seemed like a lot of those possessions were rushed. It seemed like, oh, I'm open, here we go, let's jack one up. Draymond did that a little bit. I don't mind what I saw out of Draymond. The few threes that he took were uncontested. I would like to see when he's driving to a double team to try to find the open man because he is such a great passing big man. But they need to be able to do more with the ball movement just in general.
Jordan Poole's a big part of that in terms of like offensively because he had 3 turnovers today that were just some of the worst turnovers you could have in an NBA Finals game. There was one, I don't even know what happened, but someone just stripped the ball out of his hands. He wasn't even dribbling the ball. And then he had that one where I can't remember if they got a steal or if it was like a block or whatever, but it was going to be a fast break. And he just kind of dribbles directly into Jason Tatum, which turns into a basket. And then he had another one in the fourth quarter where he was kind of doing too much, had to throw the ball out to the top of the key and just basically threw it out of bounds, trying to get it on to Andre Iguodala.
There was
like this.
He just needs to be more aggressive. I think Jordan Poole, if he just takes an aggressive approach, I think he's going to be able to. Yeah, he's going to have some turnovers just because he's handling the ball so much, but he just needs to play with less fear, just a fearless type of a game. He hit an open three there, which was key, but he needs to do more.
I was gonna say there was another one where he did a over/under and they called it on him too.
Yeah, a couple of those
I forgot about the carry. Yeah, you're right.
And
that was also transition. They had an advantage on that possession. I don't understand. Like he was exactly what Corey was saying. He was hesitating. He was scared.
Really quick, Steve Soprano just wanted to ask you a question in the chat. He says, "Is it daylight where Dave is? He's over in Taiwan right now." So.
All right. So moving on. We're gonna start wrapping up pretty soon here. What's your guys' keys to Game 2, and what do the Warriors need to do to change what they did in that fourth quarter? Anybody could go first.
I just want to see some of the kids out there. Why not put Moody out there for badminton? We've been talking about all these other the pregame show and yesterday, and why not put Kuminga out there? It sucked that we didn't get to see GP2. We were all waiting for it. We were all excited. Hopefully, hey, maybe next game we do see him, and he solves the problems for us. He's that X factor that we have next game. I love it for it to be GP2. I mean, I actually more so than any other player off the bench. To be honest with you, if he's that X factor out the game. game. But though Chris Polo said the Warriors got to win the next 2 games, I'm a strong believer of that. I did not feel good. I will not feel good at all if we only win one of the next 2 games.
I don't necessarily agree with that, Bashar, because I don't think this is the type of game that you're going to want to start taking chances with guys who just came into the league this year or last year. I think that will get reserved for if we end up getting to that 20-point lead or something like that where the game is pretty much wrapped up. Then you start getting the experience. I think what you need to do is you need to come out aggressive. I think you need to try to get out and transition, start getting those legs for Boston to start turning into rubber early and get into your type of style of play. I think they need to just come out, come out of the game. I mean, this is maybe a little unrealistic, but try to come out of the game like 15-2 and have Udoka call a timeout with a couple minutes into the game going, okay, this team is really playing hard. We have to try to find a way to try to get back into this, but I want the gas pedal on full display here. Come out, blitzkrieg them early, get out to a big lead, and have Boston throughout the entire game trying to play catch-up like they did in that third quarter, where they just came out and said, yes, we're here, we're the better team, what do you have to answer, and hopefully not have a fourth quarter like we had tonight.
Yeah, my thing is I'm actually okay with the people that played today. Obviously, if Gary Payton is able to go, I'd like to see him out there. I wouldn't really want to see too many of the young guys. For me, it's the shot distribution. Draymond Green, you should not have anywhere close to 12 shots. You should take 6 max. And it should be like layups or things that were wide open or a situation where the shot clock was running down and you had to take it. Klay Thompson only took 2 more shots than Draymond Green tonight. And he took 1 less shot than Andrew Wiggins. So for me, it's just throughout the course of the entire game, I want the Warriors' most lethal players taking the shots. Jordan Poole only took 7 shots tonight. That's 3 more than Kevon Looney took. Like, the shot distribution to me was just it just wasn't – it didn't really make sense. Klay Thompson should be getting closer to 20 shots. Andrew Wiggins at 15, 16, that sounds all right. Jordan Poole should be getting, like, all those shots that Draymond Green was taking. I don't understand why.
Sure.
And a lot of that is Jordan Poole just not being as aggressive as he should be. But Draymond Green, knowing that his role is the facilitator of this offense, you should not be forcing shots, forcing the issue. Like, that's essentially the same as him just turning the ball over. When you're not letting a play develop, when you're not just trying to get something else going just because, like the first possession, for instance, or one of the first possessions, it was actually Andrew Wiggins, though. He took a 3 because you could see they were trying to get something off the ball. Nothing was working, but it was kind of an early 3. And my mindset was like, well, I don't want us to keep doing that tonight because obviously Boston's a really good defensive team. You need to expect that. Instead of just like playing into their hands, like Corey was saying, you have to make sure that you just have other ways to adjust to get those shooters open. You can't just say, oh, okay, shit, that's not working. Andrew Wiggins, go chuck up a 3. Draymond Green, go chuck up a 3. You know, there's certain situations where I guess it makes sense, but to end the game, knowing that offensively we scored 16 points in the fourth quarter, and then you look at that shot distribution, it doesn't make sense. It's completely backwards.
Draymond Green should end up having the mentality like a Kevon Looney, getting rebounds and putting them back up. Maybe taking 5-6 footers is fine. I don't necessarily disagree with the few threes that he took because they were completely uncontested. Shot clock's running down. You need to end up getting the ball up anyway. But he needs to try to reserve kind of in that 5-foot space around the rim of the shot selection. I don't necessarily mind him taking 7, 8, 9, 10 shots if they're decent shots. But there was a few, I agree with you, Chris, that were just sort of, he should have tried to dish that out or pass it to a natural shooter to try to find. It's just ball moving. They just got to move the ball around a little bit more. I think both teams were just settling for those wide open, or just those perimeter shots for too much of the game. If the Warriors play their game, they should end up winning this second game by double digits easy. But again, the shot distribution wasn't quite there, and they just got too lackadaisical there in the fourth quarter.
A lot of it is also spacing. Andrew Wiggins, he had a good game, but I thought he could have been a little more aggressive. I mean, this is a guy that just put a facial on Luka Doncic the other day. Don't be afraid to drive inside. take the coverage, kick it back out to a three. That's our type of basketball. That wasn't there tonight. Same thing with Draymond. It wasn't enough of it. When he's inside the key, teams are in trouble because he's got three options to kick it to. He didn't do that tonight. We've got to get back to our style of basketball, or it's going to be a long series.
You can say that again.
Just don't take your foot off the gas in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's the moral of this one. You got to play 48 minutes, or at least until the game is completely over and the coaches are putting the benches in. But you got to be able to finish off these games, especially at home, in front of your home crowd, best home court in the association, and you let this one slip away. Didn't guard. They just got very complacent and really, really poor fourth quarter.
And like you said, they get 3 days before each game to recover. So there's no excuse for guys to play under 38, 40 minutes tonight.
They really stretched this finals out for sure.
They got into a shootout and they lost. They only had 26 points in the paint.
Which should never.
If you look at like the Celtics, sorry, not the Celtics. If you look at the Grizzlies series, like they were beating that team in the paint. That 26 points in the paint, you got into a shootout, you lost the shootout.
That should never happen. We should end up winning every damn shootout we go up against any team. And that's the other confusing part of this is you want to get into a shootout with us, Boston? Okay. It's not going to end well for you. And the reason why it didn't end well for us is that they just got so damn hot there in the fourth quarter. Curry just didn't make the proper adjustments, or I again, working and other things. I wasn't completely engaged. There was a few things I was doing there in the fourth quarter, but it's like, how are they hitting every one of these shots? A lot of them uncontested. They're not rotating. They're not getting a hand in the face. Things like that. They got to be able to rotate, keep the pressure on them without taking silly, stupid ticky-tack fouls with them. Play aggressive, but smart. 14 turnovers I'm okay with, but it's just the way that you finish a game. It just they should have won this game going away, and Boston unfortunately got really hot there in the fourth quarter, and the Warriors didn't have an answer with the 16 points there in the fourth.
Yeah, and what I'd like to really quickly, what I'd like to see is Jordan Poole in game 2 go attack the rim. You have the first step to do it. And not only that, if he's feeling kind of off on his jump or whatever, he's the most accurate free throw shooter in the league, at least this season. Get yourself to the line. You're going to be able to score without anyone contesting your shot. The clock's not moving. That will get a shooter in rhythm. That, to me, is when Jordan Poole is at his best, when he's attacking the rim, because he's one of the most acrobatic finishers probably on this entire team, if we're going to be honest. So if he can get that going, get to the free throw line a little bit, get some finishes at the basket, you're really going to work that inside-out game. It's going to open things up for Steph and Clay. It's going to make playmaking for Draymond easier as well. So that's what I really want to see from Jordan Poole in game 2. Jordan Poole's really key, because Steph I expect him to show up. Clay, I expect to show up like half the series at least, because I know that it's Clay's first year back, and it's kind of tough playing against these guys right now because defense is going to kind of wear down his energy. Wiggins, you never really know. Sometimes he's going to be really aggressive, sometimes he's not, but he's been pretty good throughout the playoffs. But Jordan Poole is the one guy who does have the ability to be that second lethal scorer at the guard position next to Steph Curry, whether it's from the perimeter or in the paint. He has to be the guy to step up.
Do you guys see us now that we finally got our first home loss out of the way for the playoff run? We had our undefeated streak going with Chase Center. Do you see us losing another home game at all in this 2022 NBA Finals?
Well, my honest opinion, no.
No.
Because I think losses in a lot of ways can be used for fuel and say, okay, this is what we did wrong. If you keep winning and winning, it's hard to kind of learn with little ticky-tack mistakes that could come back and bite you maybe on the road. We just lost home court advantage. We need to take care of business on Sunday, come back on Wednesday next week, and regain our home court advantage. And then if we can get these next 2, we're almost playing with house money for game 4 next Friday. Right. To then be able to say, okay, if we can win this, now we just need 1 of the last 3, and 2 of those would be at home. So we just have to get into the mentality of 1 game at a time, take care of business. Don't fall behind 0-2. Play your game. And I just sound like a broken record here, but just play your game. I'm tired of just seeing this, just lollygagging, just walk up the court, barely get past the half court line at the 8 seconds. We don't want to get a backcourt violation or anything like that. We have to be able to play our style of game. If we can get into that fast pace, Boston's not going to have an answer.
Oh, we would kill them if we. I know that. Remember that one play where Looney leaked out and they threw it to Curry? I was thinking to myself, like, oh, are they telling Looney to do that, or are they telling the other guys to do that to generate the fast breaks? And so my eyes kind of got big for a second, and then it looked like, and I guess they weren't telling them that because, like you said, the breaks weren't there.
I'm not gonna lie, I could see them losing Game 5 at home, and the only reason I say that is because I used to always remember like how invincible the Warriors felt at home. And then, even though I know they were banged up in 2019, they lost every single game at Oracle Arena in those finals. And that's something, regardless of how shorthanded they were, I never thought I'd ever see something like that in my life. And Chase Center is not Oracle Arena. I can tell you that really firsthand. It's not.
Not yet.
And did you guys hear what they did, by the way, outside the arena? So
What they do?
They stopped playing the game outside the arena because they said there were too many people, so they were kicking everybody out.
Yeah, that Thrive, what they call it, Thrive City or something like
Thrive
that.
City.
That patio,
I thought they were closing that to begin with for these finals and having everybody go inside to a room.
So Niner Nick was there. So Niner Nick was there, and he said like they were playing the game according to him, and then they just randomly turned it off, and we're saying like there's too many people here, y'all got to go, and they're trying to get people out. Like it's not Oracle. So like to me, Chase has never been like that dominant home court spot for them. I could see it whether they're 2-2 or maybe let's say they win the next 3 games, they're up 3-1. I could see them dropping one more, especially if they're up 3-1. You know that the calls are probably going to get one-sided. You know that's just like, let's just be real. That's kind of how the league is. So I could see it, but yeah, I mean you guys are right, because going to Boston, if you're not up, in my opinion, 3-1, I'm going to be nervous just because of what I already saw them do at home tonight. I'm already going to be nervous if it's 2-2, just because this is another thing we have to remember with this team when it comes to rhythm. They haven't had really until the playoffs time to have Steph, Clay, and Draymond all actually play together and start getting rhythm together on the court, going full conditioning along with the other players and getting to mix those lineups. Because when Clay came back, Draymond went out. And then when Draymond came back, Steph went out. And even when Steph came back in the playoffs, he was coming off the bench. So it wasn't really till like the second round they started really getting this team to actually really play together for real. So it's kind of like you're really late to the party and trying to figure out your combinations and your chemistry together, playing the course of like 38 minutes in a finals game. That's really hard to build that chemistry. So that's why, to me, like the home court thing, yes, it helps, but this is not a team that's exactly the most in sync as we might like to think they are. It's really late to the party to have to try to get that rhythm with a brand new squad this year. It's pretty tough.
It depends on how they play in Boston. That would make me nervous. If we lose like we did tonight, then I'd be nervous about a Game 5. But if it's fairly close and we give them hell until the last minute and a half, then I'm not as worried. But to put up another fourth quarter like tonight, then there's every reason in the world to be nervous about coming back to Oracle.
Oh yeah. Hey Brandon, you're still with us? I know you're behind the wheel, like you're in Grand Theft Auto or something. But
and
no, I'm not Jordan. I mean Brandon.
The only other point I'd like to say is Boston is not a home court advantage that they're all that proud of, at least in this playoff run either. I think they were 7-2 entering the finals here to now make it 8-2 on the road. And they've, like I said, they've ended up having to play 2 Game 7s on the I guess Milwaukee would have been at home, but Miami was on the road. So they've gotten wins at home, but they doesn't have that real dominant home court advantage either. So I think they're going to need to win this game. Golden State's going to have to win this game on Sunday to just keep this thing close. But then, Wednesday and Friday next week are going to be very interesting of the chess match and just kind of seeing the different adjustments that both coaches make. The Warriors, to me, just have the horses. They should this should not have come to this type of
outcome
finish. But again, a team goes hot, a team goes cold. That's just kind of the result that you're kind of left with. So I don't see them playing this poorly again in the fourth quarter. I'm hoping a third quarter barrage to get up to 15, 20 again, and then just be able to ice it with maybe 6-7 minutes left and just kind of cruise or whatever. But again, with Boston, you can't lay your foot off the pedal. You have to just foot all the way down to the floor and just keep pushing and let this let the game come to you. Don't make stupid, dumb mistakes. Don't let these runs. I mean, Boston had a few runs even before the fourth quarter that just kind of kept them in. The Warriors, when they get into transition, when they end up playing their style of game, are a near impossible team to beat. And they just let Boston kind of off the hook tonight. And they just got hot in the fourth quarter, and there was no answer from Golden State.
And hopefully, if anything, the loss just kind of fuels them, especially the veterans, because like Steph, Clay, and Dre, they were a part of the team that blew the 3-1 lead. Like, they remember how great they felt in that series. Like, they really thought it was wrapped up.
Don't get me started. That was fixed if I've ever seen.
Celtics have never been to the finals before. Those role players are probably feeling really good about themselves right now after hitting all those damn shots, knowing damn well they're not going to be able to shoot like that again. Those misses might feel more impactful the next game. I think that Steph will be ready. Draymond will be ready. It's just about they need to get Jordan Poole's head on straight to just go out there, just do what you did all year. Do what you did to help this team get here. Don't become like this passive guard all of a sudden. Like, that's not what brought you to the spotlight on this team, to take 7 shots in a game. That's not.
Boston knew they stole this one. They knew that they got hot there in the fourth, and Golden State just kind of let them off the hook. I don't see it happening again. I agree with you, but I'd like to see what the Warriors are really capable of, and seeing them blow Boston out by 15 or 20 come game 2 and say, okay, let's kind of get our wheels back from underneath us here and start playing in the fluidity of what our style is. Because when the Warriors play their style of ball, they're almost impossible. And they just, as I mentioned earlier, they kind of just went into that style of Boston, style of what they played against Memphis, that slow, rugged, less possessions, taking the shot clock down to 2 or 3 seconds each possession. Get out in transition, get those easy breakaway layups, and keep Boston just running back and forth as best you can. They're going to try to slow it down as much as they can on possessions that they have, but you need to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Now, obviously, with made shots like they made, especially in the fourth quarter, it's hard to get out in transition. But they need to be able to force tough shots. If they make them, tip your cap and move on to the next one. But they have to be able to lock down on defense, because I believe the Warriors are a better defensive team. And they proved that before Draymond went out earlier in the season when Clay had come back. They were the number 1 team defensively in the league. And then when Draymond went out, it slipped. But I think they'll be okay, but they need to win this game on Sunday.
They should. Hey, Brandon, you still with us?
Haven't heard. He's driving around looking for Jordan.
He's the one who has to
right
end
now.
it. So if we're gonna end it, yes.
He's driving around looking for what?
He's looking for Jordan Poole's game right now.
Jordan, what are your thoughts on this? Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't watch game 1 because I was at work. But basically, what I want to see, and we haven't seen it yet. I want to see Steph, Clay, and Poole score 30 each in one of these games. That's what I want to see. But
if they can get out and into transition, being able to do their type of thing, I think it's feasible. But again, with a defense like Boston, it's going to be a little difficult. But I think it's possible. But they have to play their style of game, running, getting out in transition, and essentially hitting shots before Boston really even knows what's going on. Boston's a very smart and a good defensive team, but they need to be able to control the tempo better.
Sure.
I think it's going to be toughest for Clay.
Oh, Brandon's back, guys.
Okay.
I'm back. Okay, so any last thoughts before we head out here?
Just that I expect a much better effort all around. Clean up a few things for Sunday. I don't think
Play
it'll
more
be. I think it'll be a
man-to-man.
much different result.
And if Steve Kerr can't get out coached, that's all I'm gonna say is
Play
Correct.
Kaminga, Bashar. Play Kaminga.
Kaminga, baby.
One more thing is before we go, if you guys want to hop on Sunday night after the game as well, let me know and I'll send you guys the link. Dave,
Alrighty.
Just trying to
Sure.
get
guys.
try to get like 10 people on here. Just kidding.
Well, hopefully we
Yeah.
win. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So just let me know, everybody,
Yeah,
and then we'll go from there. But before we head out, just real fast, if you guys haven't yet already, hit that like, subscribe button on YouTube, Locked In GSW Podcast. Instagram, spelled all the way out, Locked In GSW Podcast. Twitter is at GSW_podcast. And we're also on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/Locked In GSW Podcast. So if you guys haven't yet already, please hit that subscribe and like button once again. We really appreciate it. And until next time, go Dubs.
Warriors. With that trick.
Really appreciate it. And until next time,